Public
as
Works.
the standard.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that's really interesting is you can have, 4 centimeters up 5 blocks from me, and we're barely touched, and Fairview has nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious,
Yeah.
because it costs money every time they drive down, and every time they drive down, they're no snow, they're scraping
Well, yeah, it's down.
our investment of pavement, which, as you know, is considerable GHGs.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Councilor Pinero's agenda is not loading on the thing. Is there,
Oh, didn't you have that problem before?
how do you delete? Oh, slide to the left.
Slide
Oh,
to
okay.
the left and then delete it and then re-download it.
Yeah, so you got the, no, go back. So you don't need that, but it loads automatically.
Oh,
Something like
there's
that.
slide. We just needed the young man to help us.
Young man.
Thank
It's
you.
a finicky program. Now, and then you should.
Thank you with the delete.
So slick.
No, I made the diligent.
Jesse's now the official tech support. I relinquished the crown.
No.
You've been replaced, Keith.
He's the alternate.
Jesse, I have a printer issue.
Plug in,
We
replug
should
in.
maybe start
plug
the
it out.
meeting
Download
before
this
those guys
ebook.
get much further.
Okay, before we become the repair shop, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday,
shop.
December the 6th, regular meeting. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa, the Syilx, and the Sinix peoples, and is home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And also tonight, I said it earlier when we had the special meeting, that the flags here at City Hall today have been flying at half-mast all day to recognize and remember the École Polytechnique massacre, where the anti-feminist shooting occurred that saw 14 women murdered and 10 women injured. So item number 3, introduction of late items. Nobody's late? That's good. And if I could then have an adoption of the agenda, item 4. Can I have a mover? Moved by Woodward. Seconded by Payne. All in favor? Carried. Item 5, adoption of previous minutes. We don't have any. Number 6, recommendations from the Committee of the Whole. We have none. And so moving right into item number 7, requests. So our first request is for a CBT, for the CBT's Community Resilience Investment Program. So here we go with acronyms. So Councillor Payne hasn't put up her flag yet, but CBT is the Columbia Basin Trust. And they have a program, the Community Resilience Investment Program. The Columbia Basin Wildfire Resilience Impact Program is a provincial program focused on reducing the risk and impact of wildfire by providing funding to accomplish fuel management activities on municipal and Crown land. Nelson Fire and Rescue Services is requesting $197,190 to conduct innovative fuel management demonstrations, partner with BC Wildfire and the RDCK fire departments in interagency broadcast burn training to build capacity to manage wildfires with a multi-agency approach, as well as to further support local fire smart activities. As part of CBT's grant application process, a council resolution supporting these fuel mitigation efforts, fire smart activities, and overall grant management is required.
Move.
And would you like to read the recommendation,
Sure.
Councillor Woodward?
Recommendation is, whereas Council supports Nelson Fire and Rescue Services plan to continue with the important community fire smart work and wildfire reduction activities to reduce the risk and impacts from wildfires. Therefore be it resolved that Nelson Fire and Rescue Services be authorized to apply for up to $200,000 in grant funding under CBT's 2023 Community Resilience Investment Program. Columbia Basin Wildfire Resilience Initiative, and further that Nelson Fire and Rescue Services staff be responsible for overall grant management.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by
Seconded.
Councillor Payne and by Councillor Page. Wow, the Ps are really on it tonight. Any discussion, councillors?
Panero?
Any discussion, councillors? Seeing none,
Yeah,
although,
I have a question.
Oh.
You can't see me, but I have a question.
okay, yeah, no,
Do we have-
sorry, I saw it there. Raised your hand. I saw it. Thank you. Sorry, my apologies. Any question?
Do we have Chief Hebert?
No, we don't have the chief here.
Okay, then my question is along the budgetary side of this. In our background, we have the A to E listed opportunities, including grazing as a means of mitigation. And I'm wondering, is this $200,000 going to be going towards all of those things or possibly all of those things?
It's my understanding is yes, they're pursuing initiatives in all of those areas.
Okay. Do you have any more information on the grazing one?
I don't have the grant application here, so no, I can't answer the details.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions or discussion? Councillor Payne.
There was mention of the urban forest volunteer event. Is that similar to what was done last year as part of the initiative?
Yeah, I believe that is that. Yeah, I think that was well attended and went well. So I think that's just part of that awareness and education piece of it.
Awesome. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to participate.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add is we have got the draft recommendations from our new community wildfire, I think it's called resource plan, the CWRP.
Resiliency.
A resilience plan, yes. And so I know in terms of fine tuning this, those recommendations will be taken into consideration.
Just supplemental. So is that plan available online yet?
No, we have the draft recommendations. We should be getting the draft report here in the next, by early new year. And then staff has a look at it and then we finalize it and then it is, then it'll be available for the public.
Wasn't sure if it was just one of those ones I couldn't find.
Yeah.
Well, the current plan should be available.
The one from 2014, I think?
I think we've updated it since
Since then?
2014.
Okay. I can
believe.
check later.
Yeah, I think there's a newer one than 2014.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, I can.
And one of the good things in it, the consultants certainly recognize the amount of work that's been done in Nelson and area, so we're actually doing pretty well. We have a big forest, so but as far as the recommendations from the last plan, we've done a lot of great work there.
Okay, this motion has been moved and seconded, and seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Number 7B, the UBCM is offering a community emergency preparedness grant opportunity intended to enhance the resilience of local governments and their residents in responding to emergencies. This specific grant is for volunteer and composite fire departments to enhance the competency and resilience of their fire departments through equipment purchases and for training equipment of up to $30,000. As part of UBCM's grant application process, a council resolution is required supporting the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund grant application and overall grant management. This grant funding covers 100% of eligible activities. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Woodward. Would you like to read the recommendation, Councillor Woodward?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Whereas council supports enhancing the competency and resiliency of Nelson's Fire and Rescue Services and the community, therefore be resolved that the Corporation of the City of Nelson be authorized to apply for a $30,000 grant as part of the application to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, and further that staff be responsible for the overall grant management.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Payne. Any discussion or questions, council?
Maybe I'll just, in terms of this one, it's good to see this one going forward. When we interviewed our new fire chief, Jeff Hebert, this is one of the items he brought up was traditionally we used a smaller size hose, and he identified that using a larger diameter hose would increase their capability of suppressing fires. So, so hopefully, as he said in this RFD, the new engine that we've ordered will come with the new size hoses, and this is to outfit the rest of the engines with that same size hose.
Exciting stuff. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, delegations. We have no delegations booked for this evening. Item number 9, bylaws. So we're looking at the 5-year financial plan amendment, and it's for adoption tonight. The 5-year financial plan number 3548 2022 for the years 2022 to 2026 was adopted by council on May 9th, 2022. Since adoption, the final terms and conditions of the pre-treatment organics diversion program were finalized and additional grants were secured. These changes were reported to and subsequently authorized by council and now need to be reflected through an amendment to the 5-year financial plan. Council is now requested to adopt the 5-year financial plan amendment bylaw number 3558 2022. There's a substantive background there of all dates and discussions that have occurred, getting us to this point for final adoption. Is there a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Lockenberg, and if you would like to read the recommendation, please.
That council pass the following resolution that the council pass the 5-year financial plan 2022 to 2026 amendment bylaw number 3558 2022 be adopted.
Thank you. So it's been moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Panero. Discussion. Councillor Payne.
I guess it's more of a request. I went through the numbers and it's all really clear. I like the way you highlighted it. But is there any way for and have you in the past, when you made those changes, is there a way to have the old information beside just so the comparison is clearer? Or is that not something, this is not my primary area, but it would be
Yeah.
useful to me to see what the change was, other than reading through the document and trying to match it up to
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, no, we could present that. This is traditionally just sort of like, here's the
Okay,
areas
rubber
that were
stamp.
changed.
Okay.
And I guess, I'm not sure if folks would look at the old one and just see like, okay, here's the difference between this one and the amended. But maybe in the RFD itself, I could put something in there that would say, here's the old number, here's the new number, something like that. Would maybe be
Okay.
helpful.
Okay.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, it's totally fine to work it out, but it might just
Yep.
be clearer for my way of visualizing the
Yep.
numbers to see that.
No
Thank you.
problem. Okay.
Any further questions or concerns, council? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? And that carries. Thank you. Bylaw 9B, rural hydro rates. On September the 23rd and October the 21st, 2022, Nelson Hydro presented to council with regards to its 2023 budget and the corresponding need for annual general rate increases from the rural service area. Council provided staff with direction to move forward with implementing a 9.87% annual general rate increase for the rural service area. Hydro Service Bylaw, rural rates, amendment number 3559, 2022, is now presented to council for adoption. Again, pretty comprehensive multi-page backgrounder here, reviewing all of our discussions and what's brought us to the state for final adoption. Is there a mover? Okay, that was like a tie, so we'll go with, we're gonna go with Lockenberg again, and so he can read the recommendation.
That the Corporation of the City of Nelson Hydro Services Bylaw Rural Rates Amendment Number 3559 2022 be finally adopted.
And we'll take Woodward as the seconder.
I'll second.
And any discussion? We do have General Manager Spencer with us in the back room. If anybody had one last question on this?
I think the only thing to be cognizant with the rural rates, this is, BCUC has approved an interim rating approval. so this may not be the final rate that gets approved by the Utility Commission, but we're kind of in this awkward situation where we need to finalize our own bylaw to, to be able to bill for those under our legislation, whereas under the utilities legislation or BC Utilities Act, they set the rate. So, so we, depending on what they do, we may have to revisit this down the road.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? And that motion carries. Thank you. Bylaw number 9C, urban hydro rates. On September 23rd, 2022 and October 21st, 2022, Nelson Hydro presented to council with regards to the 2023 budget and the corresponding need for annual general rate increases from the urban service area. Council provided staff with direction to move forward with implementing a 4% annual general rate increase for the urban service area. Hydro Service Bylaw Urban Rates Amendment Number 3560-2022 is now presented to council for adoption. Again, comprehensive backgrounder attached for council's review, and could I have a mover of the recommendation? Councillor Payne. So Councillor Payne, if you could read the recommendation.
Recommendation that council pass the following resolutions: that the corporation of the City of Nelson Hydro Services Bylaw, Urban Rates, Amendment Number 3560, 2022, be finally adopted.
And is there a seconder? Councillor Pinero. Any discussion, any concerns, any questions? Just want to remind everybody that we will be receiving in the new year, the $100 rebate will be showing up, and that will helpfully, as we try to mitigate these rate increases that we have to put forward, is that this year that $100 will, for many, basically cover the increases that they'll be seeing. So this increase might be considered for this year at least kind of a neutral increase for many customers. So
I think the other piece to point out is that Fortis BC had almost a 4% increase, and really that's most of the increase that we're seeing on both the rural and the urban side. We've kept our internal increase at way below inflationary levels. So we've really looked at this budget hard to see how we could minimize any increases. And obviously Fortis is a pass-through, and on the rural rates, it was really a catch-up with those 3 or 4 years that the cost of service review was going on. So other than that, we've really worked hard to keep these rates as low as possible. There's some risk if we've really minimized, well, we didn't increase the storm reserve to a level that we're hoping to in the future, but so there's some risk with that. We have applied to the Utility Commission to create a deferral account in the event we either have a positive or negative experience with storm events.
seeing no further questions, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that recommendation passes. Moving on to number 10, recommendations from staff. Discussion regarding the snow removal policy amendment. Staff are presenting council with the amended snow and ice control policy number 5400.11.010, which includes amending Schedule A and B previously adopted in December of 2021. The intent of the snow and ice control policy is to ensure that council has a clear and comprehensive policy to guide staff in dealing with snow and ice, and that this is well documented. We have joining us tonight the director responsible for snow and ice, Mr. Henderson, and over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. So we are looking to amend the snow and ice policy that was adopted in December of 2021. It's a majority of a housekeeping cleanup of certain items in this policy. For the first one, for consistency And continuity regarding the position that's stated in here, we're looking for a change from the Director of Public Works and Utilities and replacing that with the Director of Operations. The Schedule A regarding the map, there was some errors on this map. So we've gone through a kind of a housekeeping to ensure that our priority 4 dead ends are highlighted and added to this map. Our Schedule B, our sidewalk plowing, you'll notice that there is laneways that are being taken out of this, and that is just to ensure that we're keeping the sidewalk plow on the sidewalks and ensuring that our laneways are staying at the priority 5. So there will be a removal of, as mentioned, a fair amount of laneways that are listed here. Those are obviously staying into the policy, and we're just ensuring that the sidewalks have had some updates. So you'll notice that Ward Street at Vernon and Baker, 10th Street at Selkirk, these ones are staff maintained, as well as we have removed the Orange Bridge as well, as that is a Ministry of Transportation bridge. So we will not be maintaining that. We're going to be keeping our sidewalk plows onto lakeside pathways and city-owned infrastructure.
Yes, and sorry, just before you go, Councillor Woodward, Councillor Page has a question.
Sure.
Councillor Page. His hand is-
Sorry, do we want, do you want questions before motions?
Well, because Mr. Henderson is presenting, I just thought we'd have some discussion before we put the motion on the floor.
So my question is about integrating the top priorities of, currently there are none for sidewalks, into something less than after all roads. Like, it occurs to me, and just having walked the streets throughout the winter and talking to other residents, there are certainly priorities within our priority of the sidewalk network in terms of getting people, especially during heavy snow events, downtown, because they can't pull their cars out or do anything. But the way we have it stacked now, it's all roadway values. Once they're complete, then we get to sidewalk values. Once those are complete, then we get to stairways. And so in terms of having an integrated plan that supports all of the traffic, is there room here to consider how we might take some of those core routes that get you from areas of the city to the core in some other priority setting, or improve their priority setting so at least they don't fall to the end of the very far dead end roads?
I think that's a good recommendation. Keeping the sidewalk plow, being able to move throughout the city in a productive manner is key. So if we're going to highlight certain priorities that want to be looked at, we want to make sure that it's a fluid motion for that machine to move through the city.
Totally.
Rather than going from a high priority to a low priority, we want to ensure that our productivity rate is high as well.
Councillor Lockenberg, no, sorry, Councillor Woodward, Councillor Lockenberg, Councillor Payne.
Thank you. So we have, talking specifically about sidewalks, we have 2 sidewalk machines, is that correct?
We have 3.
Oh, we have 3 sidewalk machines, okay.
Which are very finicky.
Which are,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess that's kind of where my wonder was.
100% of the time, they're not always up and running.
Okay. So if we're talking about kind of an average snowfall, how quickly can we kind of get to the sidewalks with our 3 machines? Like how quickly can we kind of open the town up after a snow event? I mean, I know there's many variables. So.
There is many variables to snow removal. We do have, a pretty extensive crew. We have an extensive crew schedule as well. So we've really tried to increase that 4 a.m. shift to get the plows out earlier than the traffic. Obviously, you can't time every snowfall, but to ensure that we are getting our emergency and priority one routes, especially with transit as well, plowed in a timely manner, and then moving through those priority lists to the sidewalks. However, at that 7 a.m. time, when more staff come in, we're not just plowing the roads, and then once the roads are plowed, then we'll move to sidewalks. There is a deployment strategy where, you know, as our plow trucks are out, our sidewalk plows are out as
Right.
well. And we have multiple operators, so we've really tried to train and share the knowledge with operators. So if there is sickness, illness, you know, absentees with those operators, that, you know, we can put people in those equipment at any point in time.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Councillor Lockenberg.
If it's okay, Mayor, I'll go after Councillor Payne, because I
Okay.
think my question might
Okay,
build on hers.
Councillor Payne.
Okay, I actually had a couple of questions, so I can maybe. I was just interested to understand better, in light of the presentation we had at the Community of the Whole meeting, why the, that laneway to Perrier Road, the footpath, has been discontinued, because there just aren't that many other options.
I have made some special notes on
Thank you.
that one.
I'm just interested, because we had them here 2 weeks ago, and what feels like we've cut off another exit from.
I think they were asking it's on private land,
I get where they were asking to go up.
Yeah.
But this one allows them to
Yep.
go another way into town.
So I actually had the same question, so I appreciate this one. So this is an undeveloped lane. It is it's a simple dirt path. So if we have high saturation in that path, the sloping is to the river as well. So it creates quite a risk for our machines and our operator. So I think essentially it's best to take this out this year. And if we have a capital plan that we have an engineered path with, you know, paved and, you know, better active transportation through that area, I think that's key for us to maintain. When we're sending, you know, these very expensive bombardier machines or wheelie machines through this area, we're kind of rolling the dice on the safety factor of that. So I think this is why we're asking to take it out this year, as I think I'll be, you know, doing housekeeping items on this policy moving forward every year as we move forward. So I think there's definitely opportunity for it to come back in this year. There is a safety concern with it.
Thanks. I knew it would be something like that. I just wanted to make sure that it was asked so that the answer's out there. I walk that path a lot myself. It's very beautiful in the wintertime. Can I ask a supplemental question, not particular to that, but it is, I guess it's the relationship with the active transportation plan. So how do you determine some of the up-down sidewalks? Oh, this isn't a very clear question. Rick, do you want to go and I'll come back to this now that I got the Perrier thing straightened out in my head?
Yeah, sure. It's okay. So through the chair, this is actually something that Councillor Payne raised, so credit to her for pointing this out. It's about the 1 centimeter definition. So the definition of snow event in which a snowfall is of greater than 1 centimeter. Now, snow event, that term does a lot of lifting in this policy, and given the liability risk that we must, if we have a policy, we need to follow our policy. Defining a snow event as a snowfall of greater than 1 centimeter sort of begs the question about where 1 centimeter is measured. Because as Councilor Payne pointed out, uphill you might get 5, down here you might get none. So we should probably define where that is if we then trigger a whole bunch of following actions in the event of a snow event.
Thank you, Councillor Lautenberg. That's a good question. We contract out for a forecaster. So daily we're receiving forecasts. On those forecasts, it'll state Mountain Station or down at Lakeside. So that snowfall event, that forecast, that's what we base kind of that snowfall event is, because as I've come to learn, you know, you look up halfway of the mountain and there'll be snow up top and rain below. So with that forecast, they're forecasting to Mountain Station as well. So that better helps us have our deployment strategy ready for, the crews will be working in the higher elevations compared to down below.
Great. Well, then a supplemental, Mayor, if I may, to Kevin, possibly. It seems, given our experience with policies in which we didn't have it fully defined and then maybe didn't follow it, or at least it was open to interpretation, which then exposes us to a liability, I would recommend that we just get explicit with where that snow event or where that 1 centimeter is measured, given that, somebody could take us to court arguing that there was a 1 centimeter snow event, we didn't follow our policy, and therefore they can sue us. So maybe just get that definition of where it is measured in the policy.
Okay.
So I would, and I think we can do that. I would recommend, because we are in a snow season, they are out basically following this plan that Director Henderson brought forward. So it doesn't mean we can't amend it down the road. And I guess we could even add that. Are you comfortable with stating as? I think we should just give that some thought before we amend the policy. But we have changed our priorities. I think it's important now that we get at least this adopted, and then we can make some more, some future amendments. And I think that's a good one to look at that and define that. That would be my recommendation right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
We continue to work, I think, with MIA as well. So, I mean, I think that would be something like, it's a good suggestion. I think what we need to do is let that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the flag just went up. So MIA, the Municipal Insurance Authority,
Thank you.
who, after the incident we had with, in the Marchie case and the liability in regards to all of that, they've been helpful in reviewing and making policy suggestions. So I think in terms of defining that, because I think the more, as we know, the more prescriptive we make policies, the more trouble we actually get into. So depending if we're gonna, make this as the marker, this is where the 1 centimeter has to be. I mean, that's even maybe a bit more prescriptive than what we've already got in there. I would just be a cautionary tale, and that I think Mr. Henderson has taken note of that, and the city manager has, and as we look at how this year works and how we look at adoptions going forward, and we can run those ideas that have come up past the MIA, because this is one policy where we are getting guidance from an experienced third-party source in terms of this particular policy for the city, so. No, I think I'm gonna go back to Councillor Payne and see if she's got her question sorted out yet.
Okay, I'm gonna leave the sidewalk question behind because something more critical to me is just the communication. So there's two places that you discuss communications, and that's when you close roads, they're posted on the city website. And then the other one is that if citizens and staff can report icy conditions on priority roads. So I would be interested in finding a more timely way of reporting some of those things. The website to me is not always top of mind, so Scott's gone, but he's gonna get tired of hearing this. I don't know if you've considered utilizing an Instagram or a texting or some sort of methodology for the roads that are closed, which would be much easier for planning if you're actually, you don't want to be driving with your texting. Just a thought. And then it also leads to better reporting of people driving. Last Wednesday when I was coming down from Rosemont, I was turning left onto the bridge. The guy in front of me fishtailed. I went slower. I fishtailed anyways, and it was just a bad spot. But I wasn't going to be home for 15 minutes and was not going to call for my car, so probably it's just not as timely. So it's just a thought. Is there any way that we can get these things? We have the voyant alert. Is there a backwards motion of that guy or something like that?
Well, I think two things. What you want to put in policy.
Okay,
So
so
this
that's
is
not policy, that's,
Yeah, I think we don't want to over-promise in policy, so
Okay.
we will identify these on our website, but I can tell you, I know Ginger does when we have, challenging conditions, certainly on Facebook, and we do get that out to the media. Sometimes we'll even advertise it on radio of our challenging conditions. I think this is probably not when we're having just had a snowstorm, it's wet and slippery and it's kind of like that all over. It's probably those sort of, this time of the week or the 2-week period where we haven't had a lot of snow, but there's some conditions that are specific to an area. So we definitely that communication when things are really icy, slippery out there, we definitely get out there, ask people not to drive first off. And is that kind of?
Yeah, when we're receiving 5 centimeters an hour, it's hard for any municipality to keep up. We really do ask for residents to report our problems, call down to Public Works, so, we can log those calls. But we really try to stick to our policy within the crew that's out plowing, on that priority level. It's stated what we need to do out there, and this is, our Bible for Public Works to complete what they need to do.
And part of our messaging is, if you are traveling, please stay to our priority plow routes, your bus routes, those things. So, stay off those side streets as much as possible. And, obviously you have to get to one of our plow routes, but yeah, there is more messaging than just captured in this policy.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any further questions, Councillor? Councillor Page, are you still with us?
I'm definitely here. I
Okay.
did have a point of process question then.
Okay, well, you're up then.
So on the input that we received today, is that going to be taken back and addressed in subsequent policy updates, or do we refer this to staff and have it come back to us? Specifically around my question around prioritization of the sidewalks.
I think staff has come to us with these amendments, wanting to have this taken care with now. Snow season, I think this was on the docket to come to us without the fact that snow was gonna start. Now we're in the middle of the season, and these are some changes that they see, or I shouldn't speak for Mr. Henderson, but my understanding is that these are some changes that they want to see be able to be put in place right now. Referral, of course, as you know, Councillor Page, being an experienced councillor, that this would delay this at least another month potentially, and that could take us right into high snow season, being that our next regular scheduled council meeting, I believe, is like January the 12th. So I think the idea here would be is to pass this, and that we allow staff to take this away and contemplate whether the suggestions that have been made tonight are something that we can integrate while we're still in the snow year, or if we lay them out for amendments for the next snow season.
I think the other thing so this is based on our current budgets, our current resources, which is in our financial plan. Obviously, we have other departments that are going to present, including Director Henderson's. And so I think there's a difference between the existing resources we have, and if you want to look at changing that resource level, I think that's more of a budget discussion, and you can look at that if there's, so that option's still open. So I'm not sure if the question is more, are we plowing the right sidewalks, or we should actually putting more resources so that we do more sidewalks or do them more frequently, or other things. If it's that latter question, then I think that's a budget discussion. If you want to increase your resources at, during this, you'll have that opportunity during sort of your budget deliberations. What we need to cement now is, based on our existing resources, this is how we are going to approach our snow removal.
And just to echo Mr. McCormick's comment there, this is a housekeeping item. This is for us to identify errors that were in the mapping in regards to the policy to make sure that they're completely consistent, so that what we're putting out to the public is the actions that we're taking to ensure the safety of the residents and the roads. If there's an appetite to increase service levels at a later date, then we can cross that path later on.
Okay, seeing no further questions, we do have a recommendation in front of us, and that is that council pass the following resolution, that council adopt the City of Nelson Snow and Ice Control Policy number 5400111010 as amended. Is there a mover? Moved by Panero, seconded by Woodward. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you, councillors. And where are we at next? Seeing so I've put my piece of paper aside.
Reports.
Reports, okay. Well, will I find my, there we go. Number 11, information items, including correspondence, minutes of committees, commissions, and meetings. And under A, we have reports. Anybody have any questions? I see that we have the Finance, Development Services.
I'll move receipt.
Okay, of both those?
Yep.
Okay. The council has received the reports presented by staff for information. It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Councillor Woodward. Seeing,
Probably just, especially for the new councillors, if there are, questions you have on the accounts payable list or something like that, if you can, just reach out to Chris, before this meeting, then he'll get the details of that. He might be able to answer a few if there are questions, but it generally has to kind of find out what that actual expenditure was for.
the past mayor used to always like to discuss the rusty moose. Past mayor used to like to discuss the rusty moose that was once on a financial report.
It's like a
Spirit.
Yeah, so it's like the ghost, so, but yes, you can,
Paper
pull out
towel.
ones. Finance always does appreciate if you give them a heads up, because as you can see there, the list of bills that we are paying is quite substantive, so to come to the meeting at the night and then ask who QWX, is sometimes a little bit tough for the CFO, so if you can, when you're reviewing that, give him a heads up, and then he usually sends it out to all of us to see who that might have been, because we all might have had questions on that one. Okay, moving on, number 11B, correspondence, so sorry, did we vote? Oh, how, it was moved and it was seconded?
Yeah.
And all those in favor? And that carries. Okay, now we'll try B, correspondence. Per council's correspondence policy, this report shows letters of support that were prepared and sent out by staff per council direction. So we have sent correspondence to Fish and Wildlife Compensation Program and the Habitat Conservation Trust.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Tate. All those in favor?
Mayor, can I just
Yes.
make a comment?
Sure.
I just wanted, we had a comment today early at the workshop about Cottonwood Creek, and I wanted to draw council's attention to these two correspondents, which are work that's being done by Living Lakes, the Rod and Gun Club, and the Friends of Kootenai Lake to try and get an understanding of the ecosystem restoration that is required on that drainage out of Kootenai Lake, out of Cottonwood Lake. So obviously, as per our policy, we send out letters of support when they don't ask for financials, but I did want to draw council's attention to this work that's being started in the community.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that is carried. Item number 12 is the notice of motion that we've tried to cut our teeth on mastering the the use of notice of motion. And so, a notice of motion regarding a waste management review was proposed at the October 25th, 2022 regular council meeting. And this report was prepared by staff to inform council in their decision to include a waste management review in the next strategic planning session. So thank you to city staff for doing that work. And
I'll move the motion.
thank you. And do you happen to have it in front of you to read it?
Yeah, that council directs staff to defer the discussion regarding waste management to council's next strategic planning session.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councilor Lockenberg. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion, that's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
And item 13, late items. There was no late items brought forward at the beginning of the meeting. There are, Can we release the very first one, even though we're not finished our meeting? No, we would go on the next meetings. Okay. So we have no in-camera items to release to the public at this time. So the last item, don't everybody stick up their hand all at once for this one. Resolution to adjourn. So Councillor Payne, is there a seconder? Councillor Pinero, all those in favor? Okay, and that carries. Thank you, everyone. So just a reminder that we will allow the audience to make their way out.